Almeida for the beat.
Wayne,
What up?
What it do?
I heard this was Wayne's World. Hey, I'm just saying that's what I heard. I heard this was Wayne's World, so it's all up to you, Wayne. Everything is up to you, homie. It's your world. That's what they told me.
Almeida for the beat.
Oh, hey, oh. Yeah, they told me this was Wayne's World. We just living in it though. And they told me this was Wayne's World. We just living in it. Oh, yeah. Wayne's World. We just living in it. And they told me this was Wayne's World. We just living in it.
Almeida for the beat.
Oh. No. Oh, me don't feel the beat. We just living in it. We just living in it. We just living in it. They told me this was Wayne's World. What up, guys? How was your day? How was your day? Hope your week is off to a good start. Tomorrow is hump day. About to be midway through the week. So we can get to that lovely, lovely weekend. Oh, and it's First Friday weekend, so all the art and shit gonna be out this weekend. Gotta check that out. Y'all do First Fridays in your city, yo? Wherever you live at, yo? First Fridays for art and galleries and food and all that stuff, yo? First Fridays be popping where I'm at.
Almeida for the beat.
We just living in it. Oh. They told me this was Wayne's World. We just living in it. And they told me this was Wayne's World. We just living in it. Hey. Just a squirrel trying to get a nut. Hey, it's Wayne's World. Wayne's World, party time, excellent. Woo! Man, you don't know that. Cause they told me this was Wayne's World. I'm gonna sit here and drink and smoke for a minute.
Almeida for the beat.
Okay, Fleetwood Sanders. Motherfuckers don't ride like that no more. Eat good, sleep good, riding in that Fleetwood. As I take a stroll through the hood. and everything looking good. Cause I kept my stripes and I kept my respect. Cause I lived this life. All that shit, man, and all that strife, man. I've been there, done that, came back, got a t-shirt, and it's still with a place at. Cause I good, eat good, sleep good, in the Fleetwood. Smoke good, drink good, sleep good, eat good. Riding in that Fleetwood. Man, they had my YouTube channel banned for a minute, bro. My shit was down and out. You know what I'm saying? Had me feeling like a peasant. I'm back, you know what I'm saying? You can't keep a prince down, you know what I'm saying? Gotta treat me like royalty, regardless. So I'm back, you know, it was a misunderstanding. So I was gone for a minute. It's all good. Just gave me time to create some shit in private. That's all that did. You know what I'm saying? 2020 gonna be that year. I can see it clear. That vision, that perfect vision, that 2020. 2020 is gonna be the year. I can see it clear. That perfect vision. Just using my wisdom and intuition. Let me tell you, I'm on a mission. I never slipping. Got off the bullshit, been stopped pimping. Now I'm all about that art shit. Just listen. And I stay getting twisted. Don't get it twisted. Really, bro. Don't get it twisted. Like dreads on my head. I told you before, man, I came from them feds. I've been down and dirty, stuck in the mud. Now I stay in the studio trying to make love. Make love with my brush and the palette. Make love like I just wrote a ballad. You want some more? Oh shit, come on, man. It's freestyles, man. Sloppy freestyles in the evening with the Prince. Corner freestyles Tuesday. Gotta come up with something that rhyme with Tuesday. We do Thirsty Thursdays. We need something for Tuesdays. Hey. Liquor got me barking like a dog. That shit got me harder than a bone. But if you leave a dog alone, then you know that the dog is gonna roam. What he say? What's gonna stop a dog from burying his bone in somebody else's backyard? Damn, I can't remember how ODB said that shit, yo. ODB said, what'll stop a dog from burying his bone in someone else's yard? Terrific Tuesdays, you know what I'm saying? Terrific Tuesdays. We need to get to some art shit. You know I do this regardless, cause I face all them hardships, and I'm my body scarred with war wounds and I can't think of nothing else. And I'm my body scarred with war wounds. I would say bullet holes, but I never been shot, so I had to stop that. I ain't never got shot, man. Motherfuckers do exaggerate too much. Try to keep my rhymes real and tight, real tight. I ain't gonna lie, I'm fucked up. Yeah, I'm a lightweight. It don't take much, man. This was like a little more than a double shot and a cigarette. Nigga, Hey. I can feel the hair growing on my chest as I speak. It feels kind of itchy. That shit'll put hair on your chest. It has. Yeah, that shit just ugh. Shit. I ain't never been in a fight with Bruce Lee, but you know, after drinking that shit, I can somewhat imagine. Cause that shit'll hit you. I ain't gonna lie. Jesus. Louder than the most, louder than the most, louder than the most. Oh, louder than the most, louder than the most, louder than the most.
Oh, me to feel the beat.
It's a terrific Tuesday, and I can smell the gas. She got a terrific booty. I'm just trying to grab some ass and do a little slow jam with her, lay her on the bed. Caress that shit and feel on her legs. Talk sweets and get up in the head. And that's when she told me, baby, let's get it like Terrific Tuesdays. Terrific Tuesdays. And you smell the gas. She got a nice booty. And I'm trying to feel that ass. Terrific Tuesdays. My man got a bunch of slow beats.
Oh, me to feel the beat.
Eddie. And I'm down to ride. You know that I'm real and yeah. You know that I'm real and I'm down to ride. You know that I'm real and you know that I'm real and I'm down to ride. So get on the beat, yeah. And I'm down the ride, chillin'. Hey, hey, know that I'm real and I'm down the ride. I'm just tryna prove it to you, going on. Know that I'm real and I'm down the ride. And I'm gonna prove it to you,
Oh, me to feel the beat.
know that I'm real and I'm down the ride. And I'm gonna prove it to you. Hey, and I'm down to ride. You know that I'm real and hey, you know that I'm real and I'm down to ride. Prove it to you now, hey. You know that I'm real and I'm down to ride. And I'm gonna prove it to you right now. Oh, that I'm real and I'm down to ride. You know appreciate it, bro. Everybody else will see it soon enough, man. We just gotta keep pushing this art and education shit, bro. It'll get there. It'll get there. Hey, I don't care. I don't care who you is, man. Motherfuckers got. People got good taste, man. People like nice shit. And people can see when they see nice shit. I got some nice ass shit, man. We just gotta let the right motherfucker see this shit. Oh, I'm fucking that up? Really? Oh, shit. God damn, I ain't got enough hands. I use my mouth. Ooh. Oh, I can monetize the station, man. I got over 1,000 subscribers, so I can monetize it, but our videos don't get enough views, man. Like, I think I need to just make like pre-record like, 2 or 3 minute long videos, because my streams are so fucking long and I never edit these shits or chop them up or anything. So if I were to start making videos specifically for new viewers to try to catch on to this shit, I just procrastinate on that end of it, because I spend so much time actually creating art that it feels like I don't have time to do all the marketing shit and campaigning and everything else. Trippy. Yeah. Take it to the trippy land. Said trippy man. Oh, take it to the trippy land. And I ride it with that trippy man. Hey, take it to the trippy land. And I'm riding with that trippy man. Charmin, what up, bro? Back in the studio. All I need is a microphone in this bitch, yo. Then I can call it a art studio and a rap studio. Oh yeah.
Omido for the beat.
Them details ain't for resale. The details ain't for resale, and it's hard to get them retail.
Omido for the beat.
Omido, your beats are kind of like, they're cool, but they not really me, man. I've been trying to wait for like a good one, a good one. see if we can find no copyright, chill, lo-fi, hip-hop beats. Every time they put lo-fi in front of it, I get kind of iffy about those. Free 90s old school boom bap type beat, but it's only one beat, man. Can I get a beat list of free beats so I don't get busted for the goddamn copyrights? Free Juice WRLD type beat. Gabby Offset type beat. I'd rather go with a 90s boom bap beat any day. You know why? It's easy to catch a boom bap beat. It just is, because the beat say boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap. 1, 2, 1, 2. And it's easy. Boom bap. My name is Trap, and I'm here to say that I can bust a rhyme like any day. I don't do the shit freestyle for fun, so when I bust a rap, yeah, I wanna get paid like... Are consignment pieces considered legitimate pieces? I don't see why it wouldn't be, bro.
Wish you had a battery that lasted longer than lunch.
Why? You gotta...
Order up. It's switching time. There, that's better.
Oh, limited editions. I thought you said legitimate. Oh, well, a consignment piece is a limited edition. No. Because a limited edition would... It means that there is an edition is a set of something. So a consignment is a one of a kind. Everything that I do for people, that's it. That's the only one that exists, done by me. So you just have, it's not a limited edition. You got a one of a kind, or original, that ain't nobody else in the fucking world got. This fucking heater too close. This shit is melting my flaps. Don't melt my flaps. God damn heat. Keep me warm. Don't cook me. Mm-hmm. Man, this shit about to make me listen to a documentary.
Oh, that's the second time man's been thrown out of paradise. No. This time we walked out on our own. Maybe we weren't meant for paradise. Maybe we were meant to fight our way through. Struggle, claw our way up, scratch for every inch of the way. Maybe we can't stroll to the music of the lute.
What y'all think about that? perfect, 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 it's perfect.
The results strongly support that these beings are not closely related to any known organism on Earth.
These beings. Y'all believe in aliens? Alien shit? Fuck. Everybody got a master plan. Everybody got a master plan. Until that shit fails and they back at square one again. And everybody got a master plan until that shit fail and they back at square one again. Cause everybody got a master plan until that shit fail and they back at square one again. Cause everybody got a master plan until that shit fail and you back at square one again. Cause everybody got a master plan until that shit fail and you back at square one again. But if you fall, what you gonna do? Stay there, get back up. Man, look, I got them guts. Look, man, I was raised real tough. Obstacles and tribulations, them shits never held me back. Cause if I stumble, I get right back on that track and never cease to keep pushing, moving forward, keep on striving and keep it hard, keep on diving, I'm still pursuing, keep it order, yeah, keep it moving. Every day and every night, try to come up with some new shit that make my life a little bright. Cause I've been through that rain, dog. I've been through that pain, dog. And I done got shitted on, yeah, had shame on my name, dog. But I gotta stand on dog, and keep it off. Cause if I fall, I get back up. Cause if I fall and get back up, cause everybody Got a master plan until that shit fail and you back at square one again, cause everybody got a master plan until that shit fail and you back at square one again, cause everybody got a master plan until that shit fail and you back at square one again, cause everybody got a master plan until that shit fail and you back at square one again. But I got me a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, just in case my shit gon' go down. Then trust me, got a plan B, cause I'ma keep it pushing, dog. Cause too many ways to get this money, I'm getting paid. I'm sitting back up in that shade. I make my own cream off of nothing. Listen, no discussion. I get them brushing, start rushing, and I make this masterpiece. Then let it release for a couple grand. Get that right back on the street, cause I flip that and move it. I get the art money, use it, and got a I lost it. I got a plan A, a B, a plan C, and a plan D. That's contingency, cause everybody got a master plan until that shit fail and you back at square one again. Then what you gonna do? Alright, you only had one plan, nigga? Oh, everybody got a master plan till that shit fail and you back at square one again.
The phone plan by Google. If a care provider made a phone plan, it would keep him connected so he could share pics from up.
Some slow jams. I'm pretty sure you can do that shit on the iPad, man. Y'all kind of have fun on things.
January 2017, we had gone to watch one of my nephews play basketball. Ellie was running up and down the court.
Formula. Well, the real formula, with a little help from Google Fi, a phone plan by Google. They're all of your favorite picks. Well, maybe not all of them. With a little help from Google Fi, a phone plan by Google.
Oh my God, with the commercials, yo. You gotta do it with a passion. You do whatever you do. You gotta do it with a passion. Cause if you don't let the real people to get you lacking. So you gotta do it with a passion. gotta do it with a passion. You gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Oh, I can't catch the fucking words for this shit. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Cause if you don't, how can you word that shit, yo? You gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Cause if you like the real, then people will catch you lacking. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Cause if you like the real, then people will catch you lacking. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Cause if you like the real, then people will catch you lacking. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. And whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Cause if you like the real, then people will get you lacking. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Cause if you like the real, then people will get you lacking. Alright, bro. Alright, I like this beat though. You gotta do it with a passion. With a passion, whatever you do. You gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a, whatever you do. You gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Cause if you like the real, then niggas will get you back. And whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. You gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Cause if you like the real, then people will get you back. And whatever you do, whatever you do, whatever you do, you gotta do it with a, whatever you do. So when you catch me in the stool, you know I do it with a passion. When I paint these portraits, orchids, you know I do it with a passion. So often, and why I do it with a passion. You know why? Yeah, you know I stay in the stool, and I do it with a passion. Portraits with a passion. You do. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a, whatever you do, you gotta do it with a, whatever you do, you gotta do it with a, whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. No love lost, if meant for action. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a, whatever you do. No love lost, if you show the actions. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do, you gotta do it with a passion. Whatever you do.
in them ditches and go to the green, stacking my paper cause I got a business plan, look at me later. And telling them haters, I got me in the shoe shop, I really do that. speaker louder than I thought it was. I heard that shit downstairs. Like, damn. And that shit was in the room right next to me. Turn that shit down, son. I might think I'm deaf or something.
provider made a phone plan. It would keep him connected so he could share pics from up here and, oh, from down there. Stay connected with 3 networks in one with a little help from Google Fi.
The results strongly support that these beings are not closely related to any known organism.
But you have an open experience.
The history of the human race is so weird in terms of the rise and fall of these civilizations and cultures that we're always, at least I am, always looking at like, how long is this going to last? Like, how long is this one particular nation going to keep it together? I mean, if you look at how many different countries have been around, that just how many, with dominant cultures, Rome, for instance, like just now it's just Italy. It's just normal. It's like a normal European country. It used to be this conquering nation. Like, how long can we kind of keep this thing up? And what are your thoughts on the future of just even the idea of nations? It seems like our boundaries and our borders, the way we have online, this ability to communicate with people all over the place, everywhere, it seems to me to lessen the necessary, or the need rather, for borders and for these walls that we're now literally and figuratively talking about putting up.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a kind of a balance. An interesting thing about nation states now is that there's a sense in which they're treated as immortal.
What up?
And that, whereas, as you mentioned, for most of history, they were conquering emperors, and nations were wiped off the map and engulfed and conquered. And now you look at a map of the world, and it's actually not that different from what it was 70 years ago. I mean, there are colonies that achieved independence. There's some big states like the Soviet Union that fragmented. But the borders in between the Soviet republics are now borders between nation states. And no nation has gone out of existence through conquest since 1945. At least internationally recognized state by the UN. So there's this norm, even though the borders are often crazy. I mean, they were arbitrary lines drawn on a map. But one of the reasons that, again, this is counterintuitive, that wars have gone down and deaths in wars have gone down, is that borders are now treated as sacrosanct by the kind of international community. Not 100% of the time. You had Russia annexing Crimea. But those are exceptions. And by and large, unlike, say, in the past, in the 19th century, where the U.S. had an unpaid debt from Mexico, so it conquered Texas and Colorado and Nevada and California, that doesn't happen anymore. And so the borders have kind of been grandfathered in, and that's one of the reasons why the world has been more stable in terms of the map. On the other hand, as you mentioned, there's another sense in which we have this global community that transcends borders. We have things like the European Union, we have the United Nations, we have trade agreements like NAFTA, which try to get simultaneously the grandfathered borders, but this extra layer of cooperation that transcends the borders. And we need them more and more, despite the fact that our current president is pushing back against the global community. But because there are problems that are global, migration, terrorism, climate, pollution, rogue states, and the fact that people, even if you grow up in France and you consider yourself a French citizen, you want to be able to spend a summer in Italy or in England or in Belgium if that's where there's a good job. And there's a desire among people to be able to move to wherever the opportunities are best. So there's going to be some kind of compromise, I think, between keeping the nation-state borders, just so you don't have constant wars of conquest and border disputes, but allowing the world and allowing the people of the world to take advantage of a true global community.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the things that people were most upset about Brexit, was that this is, even though the people that were pro-Brexit felt like this was in the interest of the UK and the interest of England to be separate from all this because they were doing better and because they didn't want all the negative possibilities from all these other places coming into their environment. But what I think that people, what they didn't like about it was the idea that this is a regressive move. and that the progressive move is that we would all move towards this idea of a global community, of this entire world being free and connected. And we've talked about some of the problems that Paris has with immigration. We showed some of the videos of these immigrants that had just littered all over the street and taking this place apart. And we're looking at it going, man, that is a real tragedy. But what it represents is a bunch of people that really don't have anything. Like, the real tragedy is that these people live like this. And the real tragedy is not that they've done it to Paris. The real tragedy is that these people exist at all, and that they moved to Paris looking for a better life, and now they're stuck in the situation where there's not a lot of sanitation, and the garbage is all over the place. They're littering everywhere, and I wonder if we ever will have a world where there isn't a place where you can go and ship a factory and pay people $1 an hour, because they don't need $1 an hour, because it's just like living in Los Angeles, or just like living in Phoenix. Like, you'd never be able to pay someone $1 an hour because there's too much opportunity. That the world has caught up and surpassed it.
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of really complicated issues. That mobility is in general a good thing, and countries do well when they welcome in immigrants, but not
in the short term.
Yeah, not too many too fast.
Yeah.
Faster than they can be assimilated and integrated into the new country. So just opening the doors probably is not a good idea. No country really does that, but building the wall is a terrible idea too. And of course, the best way to prevent massive amounts of migration is to make life better in the countries of origin.
Right.
That is happening slowly and unevenly, but it's been noted that even in the United States and Mexico, more people are going, or the same number of people are doing the reverse migration from the U.S. back to Mexico now that the economy of Mexico is so much better than the last 25 years. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, my parents live in Mexico.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And there is hard to detect, but there is a huge improvement in the standard of living in what used to be called the third world, the developing world, where if you look at the cutoff for extreme poverty, it's kind of defined somewhat arbitrarily as $1.90 per person per day, kind of a bare minimum to feed your family. It's down now from 50% a few decades ago to 10% now, and the United Nations has set the goal of bringing it to zero by the year 2030.
And what is causing that? What's causing the change?
So a lot of it is globalization. That, I mean, even though that's kind of a villain in many people's eyes, but when you have a huge global market, then and the introduction of factories and industrialization in China, in India, in Bangladesh. Sometimes the conditions are grim, but the conditions, being a peasant in the rice paddies, was even grimmer. And when you have people integrated in the economy, selling their products on a world stage, they can get richer. And so also better policies. We have governments that are no longer communist or like really heavy-handed forms of socialism where everything is defined by the bureaucrats and you need 50 licenses to do anything, and you have a little bit more economic flexibility. That tends to make countries richer. It doesn't mean that you could do away with regulations on workplace safety and environment. And as countries get richer, they tend to be more protective of their workers and of the environment.
Right.
And leaders that kind of think of their mandate as, how do I get my country to be richer? And the most dramatic case was China, where Mao had these harebrained schemes of huge collective farms and people smelting iron in their backyard. Anything that occurred to him in the middle of the night, he would force on hundreds of millions of people, and it caused these massive famines. Then Deng Xiaoping took over, and he said, getting rich is good. And he said, black cat, white cat, as long as it catches mice, it's a good cat. So much more pragmatic, much more concerned with the welfare of their citizens. When you have leaders who have that mindset, then their country can get wealthier and their citizens better off.
Now, But are you concerned? I mean, I agree with you that it probably is one of the reasons why these people are experiencing this greater quality of life is because of globalization and because these factors moving in. But they're living lives that are very different, and maybe perhaps it's by our standards that their lives are better. That maybe if these indigenous people were living this sort of subsistence lifestyle, that even though on paper they would be existing in extreme poverty, but if they're perhaps like living in the jungle or somewhere along those lines where you have access to all these natural resources, that even though they'd be living in extreme poverty, they'd be living maybe perhaps even a better life by just eating the fish and eating the plants and hunting and fishing and doing what they had normally done for thousands and thousands of years, rather than making $1 an hour in a Nike factory.
Right, and it's certainly true that of indigenous peoples who are living in hunter and horticultural lifestyles, that there are real crimes in displacing them, often not so much by factories, but by miners and loggers. But they're a very tiny fraction of the world's population. Tragically, the vast majority of poor people are peasants, not horticulturalists.
Right.
And they're kind of agricultural laborers, and for them, just based on their own choices, often the factory life is an improvement. It's an improvement not just because they're not kind of in the fields knee deep in muck, pulling up seedlings and getting bitten by disease-carrying bugs, but for women, being able to move from a village to a city often means liberation, that they can start a business, send their kids to school, be out from under the thumbs of their husbands and the husband's family. There's kind of can be a liberation, just as what our ancestors did when they left the farms for cities 150 years ago. So, which is not to say there isn't exploitation and cruelty, which ought to be opposed, and in the case of native peoples, often criminal displacements. But on the whole, globalization has led to this escape from grinding poverty for literally hundreds of millions of people.
So even when they move these factories into these places and charge or pay them $1 an hour rather, it's still $1 more an hour than they would have gotten if the factory had been there.
In many cases, that's true. Which is not to say there isn't exploitation.
Yeah.
But we look at our ancestors. My grandparents worked in a clothing factory, and when they emigrated from Poland to Canada, and it often is a route to upward mobility.
Yeah, it's hard for us to accept that or even think about it that way, because it was saying, well, how come they don't have to pay these Mexican folks minimum wage just like they do in America? Like, well, why don't they have the same sort of setup that we do here? It just seems cruel.
It does, and no doubt there is cruelty. But the relevant comparison is not so much the difference between working in a factory there and working in an office in Berkeley or Manhattan. It's the difference between working in a factory there and laboring in the fields there. And the people who are often given that choice, they line up for the factory jobs.
Do you anticipate a time where there is no third world and there is no a massive economic disparity?
It's conceivable. It's a ways off, but it's happened in huge parts of the world. I mean, we forget that places like South Korea now, this rich upper middle class society. Not so long ago, that was the third world. I mean, they were hungry. They were the children died young. A lot of them living in squalor, and that was true certainly in China. Lots of parts of China now that are pretty much middle class that were squalid not so long ago. Singapore. I have an anecdote in the book in Enlightenment Now of my ex-mother-in-law who grew up in Singapore, and she remembers a childhood meal in which her family split one egg 4 ways. This was back in the 1940s.
Oh my God.
And Singapore is now one of the world's richest countries. Yeah. So it can happen. It is happening. The most remote, poorest parts of the world are going to be the hardest to bring up to middle-class standards, like Congo, like Haiti, like Afghanistan. But in large parts of the world, there's been a huge increase in this.
How is Haiti remote? How is Afghanistan remote? Yo, JR.
3.
Lovejoy, you still in here?
Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Sherman and Heavens on Earth.
Yeah.
The scientific search for the afterlife, immortality, and utopia. Did you find anything?
No, sorry.
Nothing?
Well, I found interesting journeys that people use to try to get there from both the religious perspective and the scientific perspective. So I do deal with the monotheism's versions of the afterlife and heaven, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But the core of the book is, the radical life extensionists, the cryonicists, transhumanists, the extropians, the mind uploaders, the people that take all the supplements, and all the whole range there. I find that incredibly interesting. They call it afterlife for atheists.
It is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about some of the people that are really like over the top, hoping. Did you go to that 2045 thing in New York a few years back? There was a futurist convention with all these people that, for whatever reason, they have this arbitrary date of 2045.
Yes, it's been getting pushed back. This is when the singularity is going to come. Well, it's 2030, then 2040, now 2045.
Kurzweil is
Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah, big. He's like the grand poobah.
He is. No, and when he gets on stage, now he's not preternaturally dynamic like a preacher, but he starts talking about, you're gonna live forever, you're gonna have your mind uploaded, and people are just like, oh my God, we are the generation that's gonna do it. This is it, first time. And the moment, I used to be religious in my youth, and I thought, man, this is like being back in church again.
When did you stop being religious?
I started in high school and stopped in graduate school, so it was about 7
Interesting. You
years.
started being religious in high school.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something your family introduced you to?
No, my parents were pretty secular. They weren't anti-religious. That wasn't a thing then. But this is 1971 when I was in high school, and the sort of nascent born-again movement was starting. And there was no religious affiliation. It was just like, it's me and Jesus. That's it. It's just you and the Lord.
There's a lot of these very charismatic, hip, young preachers that are doing sort of a thing like that, where they don't even have their own church. They like rent time in a church, and they have these meetings where it's just non-denominational, and they just talk about God, and they get a lot of people fired up.
Yeah, and the place I went to is this place called The Barn in La Crescenta, where I grew up, and they played guitar and
Did it turn into a sex cult? They
No,
usually do.
it was kind of.
Somebody starts banging people.
I was hoping for something like that, but no. Yeah, that is one of the problems with utopia. The 19th century utopian experiments, they always turned into this, free sex for the leader.
Well, it always seems like whenever there's a man that's in a position where people start worshiping him,
right?
And then they start hanging on his every word. He's like, gotta start fucking some of these people.
Well, I covered Jim Jones, and the way I phrase it is that no one joins a cult. They join a group that they think is going to do good, save the world, going to help me, improve my life, improve the lives of others. And there's pictures online you can see of Jim Jones with Jerry Brown, Governor Jerry Brown, in his first round. And, they were manning the soup kitchens. He was very liberal, open to African Americans being part of the church in San Francisco there, gays, women. It was a really cutting-edge, pioneering thing. At the time, it seemed like, that's a cool thing. I'm going to join this group. Not me, but people that did this in the 50s and 60s when he was coming up, and then into the 70s, and then he started having sex, and then drugs, and then the Fed started kind of poking around, and taxes, and that's when they went to South America.
Speaking of which, I think this week is the Spike special. It's now the Paramount Network on Waco.
Yeah, Waco,
right?
yes,
Isn't that?
Yeah,
isn't that going on like right now?
I think it started Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a 6-part series or something along those lines.
See, that's an interesting. I'm absolutely convinced most of these guys believe what they say. Now, maybe they're bullshitters at the start, or they only partially believe, but they repeat the rhetoric. Their followers give them positive reinforcement. They come to believe it. And David Koresh, he was right down the barrel. He totally believed, willing to die for his beliefs.
And he also was having sex with everybody.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it's so common.
I
have a friend, and his ex-girlfriend grew up in one of these sort of religious cults, and it was the same deal. The head guy was having sex with all the women, and he would have sex with different people's wives, and everybody had to let him.
Yeah, same thing with the fundamentalist Mormons. What's his name? It's in jail now.
Jeffries.
Jeff.
Is that it?
Jeffrey.
It's not Jeffries?
Maybe it is Jeffries.
Maybe I'm thinking of Jim Jeffries, my friend, the comedian.
But anyway, yeah, that's how it gets corrupted. I don't know if you ever read John Krakauer's book Under the Banner of Heaven. This is the guy, the mountain climber that did Into Thin Air and the one about the Alaskan kid. Anyway, he wrote this book called Under the Banner of
The
Heaven.
Alaskan kid who died?
Yes,
The one they made that movie about?
Yeah.
What's that movie? Into the Wild?
Into the Wild, yeah. So he did Into the Wild, Into Thin Air. Krakauer's a great writer. So this book, he starts to investigate the murder of this polygamous family in Utah. And just as a journalist, he's going to do a story for the New Yorker or something. And then he realized that this takes him down the path of this incredible world of polygamy, which still goes on. Now, legally, it's not legal, but they marry one, and then the others are so-called sister wives, and they're just there. And they live in these border towns along the border between Colorado and Utah, like Colorado City. And I've been to some of these places. It's like a Twilight Zone episode. You go into this town, gas station, or whatever. It's like, oh, it feels kind of weird here. And so Krakauer discovered this whole world of going all the way back to the founding of the religion and. What's his name, Joseph Smith, and he gets this revelation from God that, well, basically he's banged the woman down the street, he's married, and so he gets this revelation from God, and Krakauer has this scenario in the book where he tells his wife, now, honey, I've been talking to God, and you're not going to believe this, but he says I have to marry this, so-and-so down the street. And she's like, oh, yeah? Well, I have to start seeing other guys. No, God was very specific about this. It's just for the guys. And how do I know you talked to God? Well, my buddies, they were there. They heard it also. And this is the first page of the Book of Mormon is an affidavit. These are the people that heard the revelation. And they all signed it. And it's like, okay, so this is how it starts.
Well, when Joseph Smith started it all off in 1820, he was only 14.
Yeah,
Name me a 14-year-old that's not a liar.
That's right.
They're just learning how to lie. It's not even like that they're bad people. When you're 14 years old, you are a developing entity.
Right.
Like your frontal lobe's not fully formed. You don't really know what you're practicing sentences. You know what you're doing, trying to exert your influence. And this guy was just very creative.
He was, and he got chased out of Palmyra, New York is where he started, and then he moved to Missouri when basically he was in trouble with the law and other issues, and then he got in trouble there and he was killed. And usually this ends a cult when the leader dies. Now there's a critical period if you get a new dynamic leader to take over, like in the case of Scientology, David Miscavige took over after L. Ron Hubbard passed over to the other side. And he managed to keep it going. Same thing with Brigham Young. It was Brigham Young that turned this little cult into a world religion. And they just went further west to Utah to get away from federal authorities.
Now, how much of a hit is Scientology taking from that Leah Remini series?
I think I've not seen any data like on memberships, and they're all secret about that anyway. It's proprietary data, so who knows? I can't imagine they can survive. Well, they can survive because they have tons of money through real estate investments, but I can't imagine their numbers could be doing anything but shrinking.
Yeah, between the Lawrence Wright book, then the HBO documentary with it featured
just
Carl
gripping
Haggis,
stuff.
crazy.
Yeah, and your dialogue with Leah was incredible, and she's just a hero amongst seculars that fight against cults. That's really the best way to do it. Not top-down laws against cults unless they're doing something obviously illegal, but just bottom-up members.
Yeah. I had David Miscavige's dad on as well.
Right.
That was sad.
Yeah.
That was sad because I felt like I was talking to a guy who felt like he wasted his life.
Right.
And lost his son.
Right.
And he brought his son into Scientology. The whole thing that was really disturbing.
Yeah.
It's just very strange that the United States government is allowing those people to be tax exempt. I mean, with all the evidence that's available, you just go and look at what they're proposing and what they believe, and the thetans and the frozen entities that are dropped into the volcano, all the crazy shit.
Well, the story about this is what really worried me about the IRS. I mean, I've always thought, I don't fear hell or the devil, but I fear the IRS. I'm pretty careful about that. But they're the only major organization I've ever seen that beat the IRS, and they did it through thousands of lawsuits. I think they sued him like 3,500 times or something like that.
They had every single member that they could get to do it sue them as well. They were getting all their members to sue it. They were suing. I think that was the story. Isn't that how it worked?
Yeah, and eventually the IRS just said, okay, fuck it. You're tax exempt.
Which, I mean, if they're letting the Mormons do it, and why wouldn't they let the Scientologists do it? I really don't think any religion should be taxed.
I agree.
It's ridiculous.
I agree.
I mean, in 2018, with what we know about reality,
Right.
the fact that we let some old voodoo, superstitious nonsense
Right.
and not have to pay taxes and exert extreme power politically, socially,
Right.
economically, it's crazy.
Well, so and they like preachers they could live in a house tax free. They don't have to pay property tax on the house, on the home that they own. You know, so there's a lot of these side benefits also that you don't normally hear about.
So gross.
So the Freedom from Religion Foundation and some of these other organizations, ACLU, are trying to combat some of this. But legally, how do you distinguish that from, say, a nonprofit like or one of these other groups?
Or the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, there was some statistic recently in the Clinton Foundation how much money in 2014 they actually donated to charity. Oh Christ, it was like 6%. Something like extremely low.
The rest of it, what, payroll and
yeah, mostly expenses.
Private.
And that's what it is. They're scams.
Yeah.
All these things are scams.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah, it might be good to just clean house and just no one gets nonprofit status or tax-free status.
Yeah.
Unless you're just well.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like there is room in the world for compassionate charities that are actual charities that are really legitimate. There's room in the world for them, and I think that they should have tax exempt status. But I think we should be really stringent,
right?
About what we accept.
Yeah, well, the Supreme Court didn't have the problem is where do you go? People believe some weird beliefs or something, but but they're manning the soup kitchens, they're helping the poor, and there's no corruption.
Right.
So what's the difference between them and the Scientologists who say, hey, we have our own religious beliefs that to you sound goofy, but to us they're true. What's the difference?
It's fascinating to me because they do seem goofy when you look at the idea that Joseph Smith, the 14-year-old, found golden tablets that contain the lost work of Jesus, and only he could read them because he had a magic seer stone.
Right.
And then when the local townspeople
All right, yo, I'm out of here. Appreciate it. I'm about to go grab something to eat. Get ready for work tomorrow. Jesus.